Welcome back to ZMS Esports Studio, your home for all things virtual cycling and virtual racing. And today you are of course joined by me, your host Mark. And well friends, all good things come to an end as we know. And today we take on Stage 9, the final stage of Chase the Yellow. But what is Chase the Yellow? It's been our way to celebrate the largest cycling event of the sports year calendar, the Tour de France, with you, our friends in both fandom and enjoyment of cycling. So what have the 9 stages of Chase the Yellow been? Well, we have zipped our way through this tour, and we began way back at the start of July with Avranches to Mont Saint-Michel, and we've zipped our way through to, on Thursday, Montvernier for stage 8, but today, for the final stage, we take on the iconic Versailles to Paris. So let's take a closer look at stage 9. Well, when we talk about an iconic stage, can you get more iconic than this one? Beginning in Versailles, a town that has a special place in the heart of Canadians for the sacrifice made in World War I at that location. Heading through to arguably one of the most iconic European cities of all, Paris. And this is going to be a sprinter's paradise. It's 25 kilometers with only 117 meters of climbing, cumulative elevation gain, and most of the elevation occurs on downhills, so we may even see some very impressive downhill attacks. But now that we've seen the location and the stage that we are going to tackle, let's take a look at the teams and the contenders who will be tackling said road. Well, here you can see our spread of 16 teams who have taken us through the Chase the Yellow Tour here on Wahoo RGT. But let's take a closer look, beginning with those OTR teams. And we begin with OTR Punchers, who are followed by the eponymous OTR Spartans. And who can forget our team of fierce European contenders, Moon Riders. And partnering with us to bring you Chase the Yellow is the E-Cycle Club Denmark with E-Cycle Club Denmark Team 1. And they are complemented, of course, by E-Cycle Club Denmark Team 2. And with a union team between West London Virtual Racing, or WLVR, and Peddlers, comes to you West London Peddlers. And speeding their way out of Scotland is Glasgow United Cycling Club. The hot contenders, the team to beat, it's Race 3R. A team that should never be underestimated, it's Razio Racing. And now as we skip our way over the Southern Hemisphere to Australia, we begin with RGT Australia's The Bike Place. Followed by Skippy Anderson. And the team of fierce sprinters and one incredible climber, we have Cadel Sharks. And who can forget RGT Australia's women's team, Spratty's Koalas. As well as Stewie's Magpies. I'm sure they'll be looking to launch off like a rocket from the start line today. It is Rocket Robbie. And of course, last but by no means least, we have Oppie's Stars. So now that we've taken a look at our team, our course, and all of the information therein, why don't we take a look at the GC, or General Classification, aka the results, as they stand from the Tour to date so far. So before I break this down for you, I will again remind you that this is cumulative time for the general classification, start line to finish line for all riders you see on screen. So we're beginning with men's GC. Let's take a look at our top 5 here. Well, of course, still blazing in at the first position is Jonathan Orr from Race 3R with a cumulative time from all stages 1 through 8 so far of 7 hours, 24 minutes and 27 seconds. Managing to eat away at that time and closing in on Jonathan Orr is Kasper Hetterdam, E-Cycle Club Denmark Team 1, with a time of 7 hours, 27 minutes and 11 seconds, placing him 2 minutes and 44 seconds behind that rear wheel of Jonathan Orr. Said Carradine, Jonathan Orr's teammate in Race 3R, is sitting at 7 hours, 31 minutes and 50 seconds, placing him 7 minutes and 23 seconds behind Jonathan. Bo Duke, a very impressive rider from Cadel Sharks, is sitting at 7 hours, 32 minutes and 22 seconds, 7 minutes 55 behind Jonathan. And rounding out our top 5 from Razio Racing is Igor Kopse, 7 hours, 33 minutes, 23 seconds for a differential of 8 minutes 56. So that's the top 5 for the men's GC, but let's jump on over and take a look at the women's GC. So, Kat Coleman, much like Jonathan, holding on very stable to that pole position. And the top 4 of the top 5 are once again from a single team, Spratties Koalas. Kat Coleman, cumulative time, stages 1 through 8 of 9 hours, 43 minutes and 32 seconds. Melissa Fanning is at 9 hours, 49 minutes and 54 seconds for a differential of 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Michelle Williams in 3rd place with 9 hours, 51 minutes and 39 seconds for a differential of 8 minutes, 7 seconds. And rounding out the top 4 of Spratties Koalas is Wendy Gallagher, aka Wendy Wonderwheels, 11 hours exactly with 25 seconds for a differential of 1 hour, 16 minutes and 52 seconds. But breaking up the Spratties Koala hold on the top 5 is Judy Franco in 5th place with 11 hours, 48 minutes and 35 seconds for a differential against Kat Coleman of 2 hours, 5 minutes and 3 seconds. So now we've seen the individual GC, men's and women's, but how does that affect the team standings? Well, let's take a look at the team GC. So still clutching onto that pole position is Team Race 3R. So just to educate you, if this is your first time joining us, the times that you're seeing here are cumulative for all riders who have crossed the finish line within any given team. Stages 1 through 8 for Race 3R is 22 hours, 46 minutes and 28 seconds. Only 5 minutes and 43 seconds behind, which is not a big time considering that's for a whole team, is Cadel Sharks. And knowing that they've got a series of sprinters locked in, ready to fire off that start line, do they stand a chance of maybe ebbing away at that pole position for Race 3R? Well, we'll find out, but they are currently sitting at 22 hours, 52 minutes and 12 seconds. Again, a differential of 5 minutes 43. Razio Racing coming in at the 3rd place position right now, 23 hours, 25 minutes and 21 seconds for a differential of 38 minutes 52 seconds. And the Scottish are just soaring into the top 5 here. Glasgow United Cycling Club, 23 hours, 46 minutes, 13 seconds with a differential of 59 minutes and 44 seconds. Rounding out our top 5 with the impressive sprinter Lorenzo Simons is Moon Riders. And they are sitting at 24 hours, 29 minutes and 55 seconds, giving them a differential against Race 3R of 1 hour, 43 minutes and 26 seconds. So we're going to see a fierce battle, one would suspect, between Race 3R and Cadel Sharks. But in order to get ready for that, why don't we jump on over to our pens, aka the start line, and see our riders begin to get ready, see that tension begin to build up, see the nervousness, the anxiety get in, I'm sure in the real world on the start line, we'd see our riders wrestle with themselves internally, trying to get the deft grip on the handlebars, ready to launch off down to a nice relaxed, bent at the elbow grip. And I will navigate you quickly before we start over what you're seeing on screen. So in the center of our screen we have two windows from Wahoo RGT, which is the virtual cycling platform that we find ourselves in today. On the left you see one that is live. That is, as it would suggest, live with our broadcast today, and that is the Northern Hemisphere side of the race. To the right you'll see time slot 1 replay. So this is the Southern Hemisphere, aka Australia side of the race, that went at an earlier time to accommodate the time difference. Both races will be aggregated into a single GC, as you saw just moments ago, and that will round out the end of the Chase the Yellow Tour. So we will have provisional results at the end of today's race. However, they will not be finalative, as we do also have a time slot 2 that we are unable to broadcast. This is to accommodate anyone who cannot make both of these live times. The live time and the Australia time. And that will go, I believe, at the end of today. And then we will post that to our Facebook page. So you would do well, if you wish to see the finalative results, to follow us by searching ZMS Esports Studio on Facebook, giving us a like and a follow, and you'll see that when we post that up there. We do also have, at the top center of the screen, we have the distance remaining live with the gold and black checker flag. And then also with a gold and black checker flag, you can see TS1 replay, time slot 1 replay. That's the distance remaining of the Australia time. I've been running a thing where we kind of see which one is going to win out, whether it's going to be the Aussie side of the race or the Northern Hemisphere side of the race. Follow along as we gun off the finish line here in just a couple of seconds. Alright, and we're off. I can see Boduk right in the fore there on the Australia side of the race. And shooting right off the front of the Northern Hemisphere side is Jonathan Orr, followed very hotly by his teammates in Race 3R. Let's take a closer look at the Aussie side of the race as our riders begin to gun off. They begin to settle maybe into a pace position to find where they can hold for a good amount of time until we get into these downhills, where I'm sure we'll see some attacks. So we've got Ben Kirk here with Cadell Sharks. And I can see that Igor Kopse was in the Aussie side of the race, likely had either some work commitment or family commitment that prevented him from being in the lifetime. But he is complemented as well by Mark Rowbottom, a teammate from Razio Racing. But Ben is flying quite comfortably on the front there. Now, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see what is referred to as an elevation profile. And it's color-coded. Green is your relative flat or very gentle downhills. Ambers through to dark reds is the intensity of a climb, amber being a very mild climb, the dark reds being a very fierce climb. And then the dark blues and dark purples are a very steep downhill. So this is not enough of a downhill that riders would be spun out either real world or on a Direct Drive Smart Trainer, which I would assume most of today's contenders are on in the real world. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of attacks. So will Ben Kirk be able to hold on to the front as we get into those downhills, or will we see a really good pace rider such as Igor Kopse put in a very fierce attack on this downhill, which we've seen him do before? And it looks like most of Razio Racing is in the Aussie side of the race today, as we also have Andrzej Krajewski here. And Andrzej is holding a very good pace, live from Poland. Getting into a high attention gear, it looks like, ready for attacking that downhill. And you can tell a high attention gear because the cadence has reduced. The cadence animation, as I've covered in this, is dictated by cadence meters in the real world. And complementing Andrzej Krajewski today is Matt Hammond, Nick Greenhull, Igor Kopse, who we recently covered, Ingmar van Beurs and Mark Rowbottom. Kat Coleman, who is the top of the women's GC, is right there with Sprattys Koalas, putting in some fierce effort to attack the downhill here. Some pretty fast feet. In the real world, I'd be a little bit terrified of doing that on the downhill. I'd be looking to do an Andrei Krajewski. Get as high up as you can in that gear in the cassette. And Melissa Fanning, who is, if memory serves, second place on the women's GC, right up there with Kat. So for Sprattys Koala, complementing both Kat and Melissa is Michelle Williams, Linda Van Dyke, Wendy Gallagher, better known to viewers of this tour, the Chase the Yellow Tour, and Love Triple T, or Love Team Time Trial, to take it out of acronym, and React E-Cycle Race Series. Should be better known to you as Wendy Wonder Wheels. We also have Caroline Rita as well. So we've seen a little bit of the Aussie side of the race. Let's jump on over and see who's flying, soaring on the front of the Northern Hemisphere, aka live side of the race. So we've got Nikki Haugaard right up at the front here, really pushing for E-Cycle Club Denmark. If memory serves, Nikki is a little bit closer to being a sprinter, so we might see Nikki really be able to pace a very stable, very solid effort today. And how can you follow along with the effort? Well, we'll come back to that in just a second, but complementing Nikki Haugaard on E-Cycle Club Denmark Team 1 is Kurt Pedersen, Rasmus Feldbau, who we saw on the webcam the other day, and Kasper Hedderdam. Kasper being one of the top contenders in the race series across this Chase the Yellow Tour, with Peter Austin now beginning to take the lead. And it's fantastic to see someone from OTR Punches begin to take the lead through this very moderate downhill. And complementing, my apologies, OTR Spartans, not Punches. Complementing Peter Austin, we have Jonathan Bird, Gordon Jackson, who we often see on the webcam, Richard Wagstaff, Robin Sanderson, and Shane Blackmore. But yes, how can you follow along with the efforts that are coming out of each rider in the real world and being put through into Wahoo RGT? Well, look no further than the color-coded bar beneath the name tag of each rider. For example, let's focus on Peter Austin or Jeppe Snever, and you can see right there he's currently in the dark red. That means he's in full anaerobic. If he were in green, however, that would mean he was settling somewhere around the FTP, his personal FTP, or functional threshold power. That is the effort that you can hold at a good output, an output that feels maximal to you, but it can also be sustained for 20 minutes to 1 hour, usually used as a side testing measure for outputs. Then as we get into the ambers, that's as we're going a small percentile over FTP, into the dark ambers, that's as we're getting into sub-anaerobic, and as we covered, the dark reds are the full anaerobic. We can see Kasper Hedderdam here as an example at his FTP, pacing a very stable effort here as he flies through this somewhat moderate downhill. And on the webcam here we have Gordon Jackson, who we just discussed on the top left. Top right we have Jan Hansen, again making it look easy with that cadence, looking very symmetrical, and just seems to be an expert at being able to hold up that 90 to 100 rhythm there that we can see. And he's clearly done a lot of pace training for cadence, because it's just expert. There's nothing more I can say there. We've got Rasmus Feldbau again in that very funky wig on the bottom left there, also from E-Cycle Club Denmark, and bottom right we have Scott Francis from Australia. And I can see a good amount of rock in the bike there with Scott, so I'm still curious as to whether he's on rollers. I think he might be. James Ogilvie here, the founder, the organizer, and the scorekeeper for the Love Triple T series, or Love Team Time Trial, which airs here live on ZMS Esports Studio. And complementing James Ogilvie is Kevin Barkley, Tony Lake, Andy Wedess, Sean Lavelle, and Stephen Elliott to bring you OTR Punches. We've got Jan Vanner here, beginning to soar. We've got Jonathan Orr has pushed ahead again, followed quite hotly by Alistair McAlpine as we begin to attack this very steep downhill, and yet spun out at this point, so having to freewheel into this. There we go. And I discussed with you that there is a cornering penalty if you don't freewheel into a sharp downhill corner. I'll discuss that with you a little more in a second, but complementing Jonathan Orr on race 3R is Jan Vanne, Evan Oystensen, Said Carradine, Anders Ostergaard, and Jeppe Snevert. So, that cornering. So for Glasgow United, complementing Alistair McAlpine is James Melville, Stevie Cooper and Ian Hepburn, as Alistair McAlpine is looking to put in a big attack to catch onto that rear wheel of Jonathan Orr. So we will see the cornering tactic that Jonathan Orr just used come into play again, but I'll just quickly go through with you what that is. So there's a penalty, and what that is much like in the real world. If you were going fast on a downhill that has a sharp or steep corner, you would need to, on a road bike, not oversteer, because that's almost guaranteed to be a dangerous move on a road bike downhill. Instead, you want to body lean. Now, the pedal clearance on a road bike is, for leaning, not as high as you might like, so you would have to bring up the knee of the leg that you're leaning towards to avoid collision, and push down on the leg that you're leaning away from. That also acts as counterbalance as well, so a double benefit there. But where does the penalty come in Wahoo RGT? Well, if you try and gun it through one of these corners, it will automatically brake you. In other words, it will automatically apply the brakes, and as a result, you will actually lose speed. It will bleed off some of the speed for you, and therefore you will lose time against other contenders that you are racing against. So essentially, Wahoo RGT is teaching you real-world tactics, not so much with steering, not so much with braking, but it's teaching you the pedal tactics necessary to make very good speeds in corners. You would of course have to dampen brakes with this as well, but that's the closest Wahoo RGT can get you to the real-world immersive feel of the outdoor world. So we're beginning to get into one of our short but very sharp climbs here, which has allowed Bo Duke on the Aussie side of the race to really push ahead and really gain ground there. It's allowed Alistair McAlpine to really fly as well, and would we expect any less of a Scotsman as a roadie than to be able to climb, I'm sure, those fierce climbs on the highways throughout Scotland. I remember watching Mark Beaumont do the Scotland 500, and that looked like it had some real stingers of climbs in it. So, for RGT Australia with Cadel Sharks, joining Mark Wardrop here, we have Ben Kirk, Bo Duke, we have Chris Morgan, Luke Webster, Noel Holder and Tristan Dimmock. It's been interesting to follow Mark Wardrop as a fellow Mark. He is the same height as myself, and we are only 1 kilogram separated in weight. So it's been interesting to follow him, see what a similar physicality to myself can put into this race and where his results can be. And complementing Mark is Scott Francis, David Balls, Ash Yellen, David Newton and David Daly. They're keeping all of the Aussie Davids for themselves in Skippy Anderson. So Mark Rowbottom here looking to catch up to Bo Duke, who's proven to be the one to beat south of the equator. Noel Holder in a quick chase here. My apologies, Bo Duke actually fell behind. Lorenzo Simons is the one who charged ahead as we got through that climb and into that short, fierce downhill that followed an equally as ferocious climb. And complementing Lorenzo Simons on Moonriders is Daniel Shush, Francois Icard, Mike Wareham, Walter Claus, and last but by no means least, Joe Rowe. So Bo Duke beginning to put in a fierce effort here, but we can see Noel Holder really gunning it into the dark red of that full anaerobic. Igor Kopse there has taken over that lead position from Lorenzo Simons, but Lorenzo is hot on that rear wheel, looking to put in a fierce attack as we get into the relative flat that lays ahead for the remainder of the distance. As we get closer to what would be Paris, we get into somewhat of a block system, a grid system, and there'll be a lot of fierce, fast corners. I'm sure in the real Tour de France, this is where we begin to see potentials of skidding out and potential crashes. Hopefully not, but sometimes pile-ups. Mark Rowbottom here as well, looking to catch up. But Jonathan Orr on the Northern Hemisphere side of the race, still just flying ahead. Alistair may be looking like he's lost a little bit of ground to Jonathan. And Casper is hot on the heels of Alistair as well, bringing a whole chase pack with him, including Tony Lake as well. Tony we haven't seen much of at the front of the pack, so it's fantastic to see him here alongside James Melville. So it's good to see Glasgow United Cycling Club really pushing to the front of the pack too. And again, really attacking the climb here, as is the style, one can assume, in Scotland. I say that jokingly as I live and ride in Saskatchewan in Canada, which is nothing if not entirely flat. Felix Castro from West London Pedalers beginning to push up to the front as well, hot on the heels of Jeppe Sneve, and joining Felix in West London Pedalers just behind is Christophe Quentin. And joining both Christophe and Felix is Dave Morrison, Tobias aka Toby Bjork, Michael Serge and Jürgen Janssens. So Nicky Haugaard beginning to regain ground, get back to where he was, right near the head of the race, as we saw just moments ago, being chased by Christophe, who is maybe getting a little bit of a benefit with the draft there, so that he can pace out when to attack while still getting the advantage of a speed boost. Stevie Cooper here as well, so it looks like all of Glasgow United Cycling Club is pushing to the front, looking to get a real good GC today. But the same can be said with the Danes, who are beginning to fly forward as well. Jonathan Orr beginning to pace out his effort here in the high attention gear. Again, you can follow along with each rider's cadence simply by looking at the animation of the avatar's cadence that is supplied by the baked-in cadence meter that comes as standard with any direct drive smart trainer, but it will also be supplemented by a cell battery powered Bluetooth and then plus cadence center that would be tied by elastic band to the inside of the left crank arm on any riders who are using either an entry-level fluid or magnetic rear wheel on turbo trainer. That's a mouthful to say. But we do have our webcams here. We can see some really good rhythms here. What I can see of Gordon there, looks like he's in a really good rhythm, holding at a good pace. Rasmus Feldbard doing somewhat fast feet, somewhere of a mid-tension gear. Scott Francis, I do suspect he is on rollers because he's keeping fairly fast feet, not the fastest, but also looking like he's trying to keep everything symmetrical in that cadence. And again, the rock of the bike is suggesting to me rollers. And then we've got Jan Hansen, who again could be the poster child for symmetrical cadence. Scott is actually apparently on a rocker plate. That is, I don't use that manufacturer myself. I'm with Tax. So I've got a Tax Flux 2, which is designed to be on flat ground. And I believe that's is that a Wahoo thing? The rocker plate? But I've seen them and they look quite interesting. They look like they give you the feel of the real world while being perfectly still. So we are already crossing our midway point in today's final stage, stage 9 of Chase the Yellow Versailles Paris, and that is denoted by the purple marker that we can just see Jonathan crossing, and the Aussie side of the race is barely a hair ahead, or they were just a second ago, beginning to fall back a little bit. And again, you can follow along which side of the race, either live, Northern Hemisphere, or time slot 1 replay, aka Australia, is going to get to the finish line first. And this is denoted by the head of the race, by the way. who is striking away the distance remaining the fastest. And right now it's fairly neck and neck. There's about 50 meters in it, but it is currently being taken by the Northern Hemisphere side of the race, with Jonathan Orr's high tension effort at the front of the race. And let's take a look at the lead of the Northern Hemisphere side of the race quickly and see how Jonathan's getting on. So still just flying, getting into faster feet here. Perhaps to massage out those legs, get ready for getting back into high tension where you can be more efficient. Sting the quads a bit more, but more efficient with less pedal strokes to more speed, to more wheel rotations. So we've got Jonathan Orr here. He's sub-anaerobic right now, fairly well paced, as you can see in that lighter amber. And just about getting into the harder sub-anaerobic here, and full anaerobic again, looking to gain ground into this very mild climb that's coming up, to gain some ground going back into the flats. Casper Hedderdam now leading this chase pack, leading the chase effort, followed hotly by Christophe Contant. Very interesting to see Christophe right near the head of the race, and I'm going to be interested to see what Christophe might be able to put out into the tarmac. All riders today, knowing that it's the final stage, are not going to want to leave anything behind. They're going to put it all into the bike. They're going to stretch those chains to their limits. They're going to turn those cogs of the cassettes into nubs, the teeth into nubs. And I'm sure there'll be a few softened, light butter crank arms by the end of today's race too. And as I say that, James Melville flies round the convex or the inverse side of our chase group and takes the lead in that chase effort. On the Southern Hemisphere side of the race, we can see that they have begun to become strung out through the downhill, where it appears that some put in a full downhill attack and others rightfully use that time to collect themselves ready for this very long flat. Flats may seem easier than climbs, but the trouble is you have sustained effort the entire time, because as much as climbs sting, you do get the advantage of a downhill. So, complimenting Kat Coleman, who we just saw there, we also have Wendy Gallagher, aka Wendy Wonderwheels, Michelle Williams, Melissa Fanning, Linda Van Dijk, and Caroline Reuter. And the bike place, we've not had much time to give them much love, but they are Tim Rice, Dan Baxter, Michael Vreeken, Callum Henderson, Ryan Wilmot, and David Vass. As much as I joked in the first stage about the black and white photos, they are wonderful headshots. Boduk here is now surged ahead to the lead, even pushing past Igor Kopse. But we know that Igor is very well trained at knowing when to pace, and he will be stealing a bit of draft benefit for a while, one would assume, ready for having the cardio and the quads ready to gun through those crank arms to put in a phenomenal finish line effort. And you forget with downhills how quickly time and distance can be eaten away. We have under 10 Ks left already. That's a phenomenally quick race today. And Igor's going full anaerobic again, looking to press ahead. Perhaps as the final stage, he's been holding stuff back, looking to press ahead, looking to drag Boduk after him, lure him into a chase effort, and really fill up Boduk's quads with lactic acid, turn them a bit too hard to function, and just soften that chase effort. But time will tell. Igor Kopse is being successful at stringing out that lead breakaway. There's no more front wheel to rear wheel. However, teammate Mark Rowbottom is also suffering from that, but he's going full anaerobic, and we know that Mark, as a relative rouleur, is able to put in some good chase efforts like this, and look at that, easily eating away that swath of tarmac between them. I've got a feeling that Igor Kopse may also pace himself back and then wait until the time's right to do it again, string out that effort, and just try and soften the quads of his contenders. So James Melville on the Northern Hemisphere side of the race is in the main chase position, followed quite hotly by Casper Hederdam, and we wouldn't expect anything less from Casper than to be right near the head of the race. Now, are my eyes deceiving me? Is this a pace line? Am I just want to see pace lines everywhere? Or does this just happen to be that that's the formation that's formed? Because it certainly looked like Christophe Contant was beginning to move ahead to fall in at the lead as the engine of the pace line. As I say, that may just be coincidence. It may be that these teams, as the rival underdogs to Race 3R, might be looking to work together, have formed an alliance, but I might just be want for the underdogs to win. So as a reminder of today's course, it's 25 kilometers to give you an idea of how quickly that distance is being eaten away at by the downhills. And it is only 117 meters of climbing, so relative flat the whole way. And again, you can follow along with the elevation profile by looking just at the center of each of the live in-game windows to see that color-coded graph at the bottom, which is your elevation profile, beginning in Versailles, ending in Paris. Igor Kopse flying still on the front of the Southern Hemisphere, aka time slot 1 replay side of the race. But Bo Duke is pacing out his effort in the back. I believe pacing, ready to put in the big guns, knowing that all he needs is to time it right with passing Igor Kopse. So we can see there 3 teams represented. We've got Razio Racing, we've got Cadel Sharks, and we also have Moon Riders. Chris Morgan is in the main chase position alongside Jan Vanna as well. And also Razio Racing's, one of the other teammates of Razio Racing, Alex Plager. But how are our riders looking on the webcams? Are we starting to see the pain faces yet? Yes, we are. Gordon still looking well paced, but a little bit of a pain face coming in there. Scott Francis. Wonderful pain face on Scott Francis. I can't see much of Rasmus's face, I must say, but still loving the funky faux fro there. And Jan Hansen again makes Cadence look like an art that has been spliced with a science. So Ben Kirk now taking lead as the main chase position in the Southern Hemisphere side of the race. Jonathan still flying there on the Northern Hemisphere side, but I'm filled with confidence by the size of the chase pack there on the Southern Hemisphere side of the race, looking to catch on to that breakaway group. Christophe Contant now taking the lead, and I'm still unsure as to whether this is just by coincidence a pace line or if they are actually working together. But today there is no pace line in the Southern Hemisphere side of the race. Alliances be damned. But as I say that, is that formation coming? Whoa, Igor has just opened up a massive swath of tarmac there. We might see Igor fly away with this today, but we certainly know that Lorenzo Simons has got the legs in him for a very good sprint, as does Bo Duke, as does Mark Rowbottom for a good chase effort. So what if you wanted to compete and chase the yellow and you missed the marker by which to form a team and register with us here at ZMS Esports Studio? Well, you have not missed your opportunity. You can instead compete in an individual time trial called Challenge Road. And to do so, you can enter 24/7. It's open to you all the time on the Wahoo RGT app. It ends on July 31st, and like I say, it is a general classification rates of a cumulative time and it is based on individual time trials. So in other words, fastest individual rider wins 34 kilometers, and there is a fierce elevation gain from start to finish, and that is a cumulative elevation gain of just over 2 kilometers. Yes, you heard me correctly, 2 kilometers. It'll be fun. I'm not sure if your legs will agree, but give it a go, and we will announce those results at the start of August on the ZMS Esports Studio Facebook page. Again, search us out on Facebook, ZMS Esports Studio, give us a like and a follow, and you'll see the results up there. You can, of course, also find the results at the beginning of August on the rgtdb.com, which is the Wahoo RGT aggregate score website. So we do actually have a bit of a pace line beginning to form, perhaps out of convenience, on the Southern Hemisphere side of the race now, between Bo Duke, Lorenzo Simons and Mark Rowbottom. I think all three have realized that if they are going to catch the rear wheel of Igor, that they are going to have to, like it or not, work together. Mark is looking to catch up, obviously, to be with his teammate and get a better GC for the team, but the other two looking to catch up to get into a position where they might win. And who is taking the lead now out of the live, aka Northern Hemisphere side of the race, or the Southern Hemisphere, aka time slot 1 replay, in terms of distance remaining? If I avert your eyes to the top center of the screen, you'll see that by a shave, it is the Southern Hemisphere side. They're beginning to eat away the remaining distance the fastest. And again, this has flown by in today's race. So we just have under just 4 kilometers remaining. Jonathan Orr still just flying there, as is Igor Kopse. It's a two-man race right now, with Igor beginning to take a lead. But will it be that way for the remaining 3 kilometers? It looks like there is 100 meters in it from Bo Duke, who's the leader of that little pace line right now, to Igor. And how much is it with Jonathan and those behind him in the Northern Hemisphere side? Well, it's actually half a kilometer. So that may be impossible at this point in the Northern Hemisphere side of the race, but stranger things have happened. So Casper there beginning to form the lead chase group, forming a little pace line to catch on to now the primary chaser. We have Alistair McAlpine, Christoph Canton, and we have Jeppe Sneijder as well. So that is 3 teams represented there. We have the Glasgow United Cycling Club, we have West London Pedallers, and we have Race 3R. Kevin Barkley also coming in hot for OTR Punches. And our little pace line there between Mark Rowbottom, Lorenzo Simons and Bo Duke seems to be switching between being in the convex of the road and the apex. Now Bo Duke is expert at forming pace lines in Love Triple T. In fact, his team, the RGT Australia Sharks, they are phenomenal at pace lines. They make it look like an art. And they, I have no doubt that Bo Duke is communicating with the other 2 riders through either some other method, some external method, or the baked-in Wahoo RGT race radio on how to best move across the road and what their best draft positions might be. So tomorrow we have Champs-Élysées, and that will be the celebration ride exclusive to all the riders who have taken part in the race series, but welcome for others to join too, and have fun with that. It's going to be a ride that is not broadcast, as it's not a race, and just a reminder everybody, it's not a race. Have fun with your fellow riders, throw team allegiances and team lines aside, and have fun with the baked-in Wahoo RGT race radio. Get to know your fellow riders, get to know somebody else from somewhere else in the world. And it's our way of saying thank you for joining us for this Chase the Yellow Tour. you've helped make it the success that it has been. So Igor Kopse still flying there, and again we can see some really good cadence efforts and some really good rhythms through the webcams there. So both are just flying. We can see it looks like a higher tension gear effort from Jonathan Orr there with that lower cadence. So I think looking to again be optimal with the least amount of pedal strokes for the most amount of wheel rotations. That does come at the cost of the chain tension, so it does come at the cost of shooting your cardio effort up higher and faster, but it is the most efficient for speed. Igor Kopse conversely is in a mid-tension gear, it appears, with a much faster feet, and he's honing in faster than Jonathan Orr on the Flamme Rouge here, which is the marker for 1 kilometer remaining. And again, ahead by a shave, maybe 100 meters in it now, is the Southern Hemisphere side of the race, thanks to Igor Kopse's real fast effort. But closing that distance down fast is the three-team effort there of Lorenzo Simons, Bo Duke, and Mark Rowbottom, but followed quite hotly by Alex Plager and Tristan Dimmock. In the main chase position on the Northern Hemisphere side is Casper Hederdam and James Melville. Now Jonathan looks like he's maybe in a little bit of hurt here, but he's in the full anaerobic in a very, very low cadence, so very high tension gear. And I'm wondering if that's going to hurt his speed here and distance, but it looks like he's still ahead by quite a way. But managing to eat away at that distance quite a bit has been James and Casper there. But it really does look like this is a two-horse race right now between Igor Kopse and Jonathan Orr. And this is anxiety-inducing enough that I am pulling at my lower leg hair as I watch this on the edge of my seat, which hopefully you are too. And oh wow, there are meters in this between the two, and it looks like Igor Kopse has got that there for the lead position. Second, followed in at second by Jonathan Orr, and Mark Rowbottom beginning to close the gap, coming in at a very good GC alongside his teammate Igor Kopse, followed by one of the ones to watch in terms of a sprinter, Lorenzo Simons, and of course Bo Duke as well, who's been one of the top Aussies to follow in the Chase the Yellow Tour. Casper Hederdam, who I'm sure has made E-Cycle Club Denmark Team 1 and of course Team 2 very proud with his efforts throughout the race series. Wonderful stuff there, Casper. Alex Plager coming in hot on Christophe Contant there, looking to push past him, but just failing there. But he was only one wheel length out. So good chase effort there from Alex Plager. But Christophe Contant just had that lead. Nicky Haugaard and Stevie Cooper. Nicky Haugaard has really pushed up the GC table in terms of his efforts across this race series. Again, a good testament to how racing like this routinely really brings up the abilities and the fitness levels of riders. So well done, Nicky. Well done, Scott, as well. As we can see, they just crossed the finish line, beginning to catch his breath, just maybe having gone over the VO2 max into the shallow breaths. So Lorenzo, or did Lorenzo fall away from the lead effort there? So Mike Wareham with Moonriders as well, who we showed before, alongside his teammate Lorenzo Simons. And we have Joe Rowe here from the Republic of Ireland. I'm always happy to see Irish racers in the virtual world. As a country with a lower population, much like Denmark, it's always exciting to see their contenders live in any race. So thanks for joining us, Joe. Ryan Wilmot as well. I believe we're in the EF Education Easy Post. Is that the name of that team? We're in the kit for EF Easy Post Education, or whatever it's called. And Andrei Krajewski coming in hot on the finish line there, followed by Chris Henderson. So this has been a wonderful tour series in which to see riders of all different abilities, whether it's climber, sprinter or rolleur, but also of all different fitness levels. And we'd like to take a moment from both of us here at ZMS Esports Studio, both myself and Damon, to say thanks so much for taking part in this. So we can see Damon live there. Damon, who put together all of the graphics, all of the virtual cameras, and all of the vision mixing that makes these broadcasts so engaging. And Damon is live out the UK, whereas conversely I am live out of Saskatoon in Saskatchewan in Canada. Gordon Jackson, who we saw on the webcam there, coming in hot on a sprint, on the drops, pushed out of the saddle, and really gunning it over that finish line. Fantastic effort there, Gordon. We saw the full anaerobic on the colour-coded bar there. We saw the effort you were putting through into the cranks. A well-deserved cresting of that finish line. Got Barry Lowe, one of the organisers of the whole league of RGT Australia, crossing the finish line. And we have C. Mathieu here. For France, pacing his effort over the finish line. It's nice to see quite a few Northern Hemisphere riders join in the Aussie side of the race and really helping to pad that out. But having said that, there would be a large number of riders even without, as there is a huge contingent of Aussies on Wahoo RGT who help to make it a better and brighter place. Nice fast feet there from T. Cook, crossing the finish line. I'm loving seeing these finish line sprints. Sean Laville and Richard Wagstaff there, both with OTR punches. And Kjeld Høy with the E-Cycle Club Denmark. That was quite a journey for me, learning how the O slash, or whatever that vowel is called, that actually changes its pronunciation. If it's followed by a G, it becomes oi. But if it's at the start of a word, it's o. Or ooh, sorry, ooh. Like a U sound that is kind of cut by an O sound. This race series has really been made by the riders out on course, and again across all fitness levels, which is such an endorsement to the world of virtual riding and virtual racing, as much as the same would be if this were an outdoor race with riding in the real world. And here we have a recap of the stages we went through. We began at the start of June there, July 4th, with Avranches to Saint-Michel. Then we had Sisteron, Château-Redon to Sisteron. Souston for stage 4. Albertville to Charles-les-Hauts for stage 5. We had Montvertot for stage 6. Stage 7 was Sion. And stage 8 Montvernier before today for the final stage, stage 9, Versailles to Paris. I'm still floored by how fast today's race has gone, instigated largely by the downhills that started today's course, but the relative flats as well. We had some powerful rollers and sprinters on today's course who ate away at the relative flats as well at an incredible rate. So we began in Versailles, ending up in central Paris. And you can see now our final contenders closing in on the finish line as they close the book on what has been an exciting Chase the Yellow Tour series that we at ZMS Esports Studio have brought to you, both the riders and contenders on course and the viewing audience, to celebrate the Tour de France with you. And I hope you've had a lot of fun with this. You can follow us on ZMS Esports Studio by finding us on Facebook, searching ZMS Esports Studio, giving us a like and a follow. You can follow ZMS Livestream on YouTube, where videos will also go live there, our video broadcasts. But you can also download the ESTV app to any smart device and you can watch along there simply by in-app searching and following ZMS Esports Studio. If you wish to also try Wahoo RGT, you can Google search it, find the Wahoo website in the results, and then download Wahoo RGT, which you can try for free. And it's also a freemium app where you have limited functionality for the entirety of the app without having to buy into it. However, you might find that you get a lot more out of it by paying into it, because not only do you get Wahoo RGT, you will also, as part of Wahoo Systems X, get Wahoo System. And that is a video-based system not too dissimilar from other video apps such as Ruvi, but it allows you to do the 4DP test, which is proprietary to Wahoo, which is claimed to be a smarter and wiser way of testing a rider's ability than the traditional FTP test. It also is a way of determining what rider ability any given rider is at, whether it's climber, roller, or sprinter, and you can then use that for training that is tailored towards your ability level and your FTP. I believe the website is wahoofitness.com, all one word, no hyphenation, no special characters. And on there you will have all of Wahoo's stuff, including all of the hardware they make for real-world outdoor riding, as well as the software, Wahoo System and Wahoo RGT. Alright, so now that we have watched the sole majority of our riders cross the finish line, let's take a look at the GC, and bear in mind this is provisional. To see the full GC, follow us on Facebook by searching out ZMS Esports Studio, and you will get an update when we post the finalative GC results live. But for now, as it stands, stages 1 through 9 completing the Chase the Yellow Tour. We see Jonathan Orr taking the lead on the men's GC for Race 3R, and with an accumulative time across all 9 stages of 7 hours, 59 minutes and 42 seconds. So again, that is from start line to finish line of every stage. Kasper Hederdam holds on very strongly to that second place position, a position he should be very proud of for E-Cycle Club Denmark Team 1, with a time of 8 hours, 3 minutes and 13 seconds, placing him 3 minutes and 30 seconds behind Jonathan. Bo Duke really took the charge to get that third place position, and he's done so for Cadell Sharks with 8 hours, 7 minutes and 52 seconds for a differential of 8 minutes and 9 seconds. Igor Kopse with that phenomenal effort where he was just flying on today's race for Razio Racing with a time of 8 hours, 8 minutes and 37 seconds, giving him a differential of 8 minutes and 54 behind Jonathan. And joining him from Razio Racing, teammate Mark Robotham rounds out the top 5 with 8 hours, 16 minutes and 6 seconds, placing him 16 minutes and 23 seconds behind Jonathan. So we've taken a look at the top 5 for the men's GC. Let's jump on over and take a look at the women's GC. So once again, we have another case of our top contender holds very tightly to that top spot. Kat Coleman for Spratty's Koalas is sitting at 10 hours, 25 minutes and 17 seconds for all-time stages 1 through 9, completing Chase the Yellow. But for a differential of 6 minutes and 20 seconds, we have Melissa Fanning, also with Spratty's Koalas, 10 hours, 31 minutes and 38 second cumulative time. Wendy Gallagher, aka Wendy Wonderwheels, has pushed up to that third place position for Spratty's Koalas once again with a differential of 1 hour, 16 minutes and 54 behind teammate Kat Coleman for a time of 11 hours, 42 minutes and 11 seconds. But again, breaking up the top 5 being consumed by Spratty's Koalas is Judy Franco in 4th place with a differential of 2 hours, 11 minutes and 15 to Kat Coleman. And that is a time of 12 hours, 36 minutes and 32 seconds. Rounded out the top 5 once again for Spratty's Koalas is Linda Van Dyke with 13 hours, 43 minutes and 19 seconds, giving a differential of 3 hours, 18 minutes and 2 seconds. But having seen the individual GC, how does that affect the teams? Well, let's jump on over and take a look. So still holding on very tight to that top spot is, again, Race3R. So this is cumulative time for all riders in any one given team crossing the finish line on all stages. Stages 1 through 9 cumulative for Race3R is 24 hours, 34 minutes and 4 seconds. Still fairly stable in that 5 to 6 minute mark. On their differential is Cadel Sharks with 24 hours, 39 minutes and 57 seconds for a differential of 5 minutes 53. Razio Racing still holding very strong to that third place position. 25 hours, 14 minutes and 43 seconds for a differential of 40 minutes, 39 seconds. Glasgow United Cycling Club making all of Scotland proud, I'm very sure, with a time of 25 hours, 35 minutes, 47 seconds for a differential against Race3R of 1 hour, 1 minute and 43 seconds. But rounding out the top 5 at the end of Chase the Yellow here on Wahoo RGT is Moonriders, giving us a time of 26 hours, 20 minutes, 56 seconds for a differential against Race3R of 1 hour, 46 minutes and 52 seconds. Whoa, wowee, what a race. That was a very, very fast one. And the next stage is tomorrow. This is not a race, it is a celebration ride. Celebrate the effort that you put into your crank arms. Celebrate the fact that you left nothing behind, that you put it all into the bike. And have fun with your fellow riders as you tackle Champs-Élysées. But Champs-Élysées is going to be a fun one. Relative flats. And a nice one to take on at a slower pace. And you'll be able to join us there, but we will not be broadcasting this live. So it's just a fun social, let's call it a social ride. So thank you so much for joining us. In just quick summary across this race series, I personally, Mark, wish to say thank you to all contenders on course. Thank you to everyone who watched live for all the lovely comments that you placed live in the broadcast. You made this so special for me as well as everybody who's watched live. And I also wish to say a huge thank you to Damon. But I also wish to get you, the audience, to say a huge thank you to Damon for putting this whole thing together, spending every waking hour putting together the graphics that you see on screen. So thank you so much, Damon. And my name has been Mark. You've been a wonderful audience. I hope you've enjoyed this race series. And now please have a wonderful day.